In this tutorial, I'm going to walk through how to work the borders of the Ergodic pattern by Janica Carter, which is the Expression Fiber Arts 2025 Choose Your Own Adventure Knit Along pattern. So before I actually work the borders, I know that Shandy actually worked the borders in the video that she did releasing this pattern. The reason I'm doing this is because I knit English style, and Shandy knits continental style, so if you knit English style, this may be easier for you to follow. But primarily the reason I wanted to make this is because I wanted to break down the border stitches a little differently than the way they appear in the pattern, because that's what I needed to do to make it make sense for me. So I just kind of wanted to share. So if you look at the border, I've got my little swatch here. So I've got the border on either side. You can see I've got my little stitch markers that are separating the border from my little stockinette section here in the middle. So the border has 3 sections. All right, so the first section is a 3-stitch I-cord. All right, so you have on the front you have a knit stitch, a slip stitch, a knit stitch, and you're slipping with the yarn in front. So that creates your I-cord, and on the back that I-cord is slip with yarn in front, knit with yarn in back, and then slip with yarn in front. Okay, so that is the 3 outermost stitches on either side of the border. So that's the first 3 stitches. The next 3 stitches are garter stitch. So they're always knit on the front and always knit on the back. So you have your 3-stitch I-cord, 3-stitch garter stitch, and then we have a 2-stitch section here. And the first stitch is slipped on the front and then purled when we get to it on the back. And the next stitch, this last stitch, is what basically kind of creates this little, so you can see it almost creates ribbing here. Okay, so it's going to really depend on what your first stitch is after your stitch marker, what happens. But basically it creates a line of purl stitches here that kind of separate the border from the stitches in the middle. So you have this slip stitch, which creates a longer stitch here. So it's slipped here on the front with the yarn in back, and then it's purled when you get to it on the wrong side. And then you have this purl stitch that when you get to it on the wrong side is knit. So it's going to show up as always a purl from the right side of the work. You're purling it on the front, and then when you get to it on the back, you're knitting it. And that goes for the same on either side of the border. Closest to your stitch marker, so before you get to your stitch marker and then right after you slip your stitch marker, you have the stitch that's always purled on the front of the work and always knit on the back of the work. So it creates a line of purls from the front, or from the right side, it looks like a line of purls. So that is the first stitch on either side of the marker. So right before you get to the marker, right after you get to the marker, that stitch is always purled on the front, always knit on the back. The next stitch is this slip stitch. So it creates a longer stitch, and on the front of the work, it's always slipped with the yarn in back, and on the back of the work, it's always purled. Okay, so it creates a long looking knit stitch. Then you have the 3 stitches that are always knit. So knit 3 on the front, knit 3 on the back, and that goes the same. So you have the 3 over here, and then you have the slip stitch and then the purl. You have the purl, the slip stitch, and then the 3 knit stitches over here. And then you have your I-cord, that's the outermost 3 stitches that are worked knit, slip with yarn in front, knit on the front, and that goes the same over here. Knit, slip with yarn in front, knit. And then when you get to the back, you're working those slip with yarn in front, knit, slip with yarn in front, and same thing on the very edge. So rather than trying to work this, it's an 8-stitch sequence that it's hard to keep in your head. So rather than do that, I work it in 3 sections. I work it in the I-cord section. So the 3 stitches that come first are the I-cord, then the garter stitch. Those are the 3 stitches that come next. So 3 stitches, 3 stitches, and then my last 2 stitches are my slipped and my stitch that's right up next to the border, which is going to be purl on the front, knit on the back. Okay, so I am going to knit through this a couple of times, just so if you want to follow along, you can do that. So we begin with a knit, slip with yarn in front, knit. All right, so that's our I cord. Knit, knit, slip with yarn in front, knit. Then we have 3 garter stitch. So knit 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we have our slip with yarn in back. So you're just slipping that stitch purlwise, tip to tip, and then bring the yarn to the front, and we're going to purl that last stitch. All right. So then let me get over to this other side of my border. Okay, so once you get to the border on the end of your right side, we begin with a purl 1. So we have these first 2 stitches. You have a purl 1 and then slip 1 with yarn and back. All right, so those are those 2 that are right up next to the stitch marker. Purl, slip with yarn and back. Then you have the 3 garter stitches. So knit 3. And then you have your 3 I cord. So knit 1, slip with yarn in front, knit 1. Now, I realize that working it this way doesn't help if you're trying to read the pattern stitches, because I'm saying different stitches than what the pattern is saying, because it has the knit stitches in a group of 4 instead of a group of 3. And then when you turn to the back side, the knit stitches are going to be in a different group. So bear with me. On the back side of your work, so again, we have the I cord on the edge. So the I cord begins, slip with yarn in front, and then, whoops, slip with yarn in front, and then try to keep that on the needle. Knit 1, slip with yarn in front, all right, and then we have our garter stitch section. So again, we have knit 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we have our stitch that on the front is slipped, all right? That is going to be purled. And then this stitch right up next to the marker is always knit on the back. So purled on the front, knit on the back. And then same thing when we get to the other edge. So let me get over here to the other edge. All right, so after the stitch marker, our first stitch is knit. So on the wrong side, it's creating this column of knit stitches. And on the front, it's creating a column of purl stitches. So knit that first one, purl the next one. So those are the first 2. Then we have 3 garter stitches. So knit those, 1, 2, 3. Then we have our wrong side I cord. So yarn front, slip the first stitch, yarn back, knit the next stitch, yarn front, slip the last stitch. Okay, so I think if you, so here's how I compensated when I was working the pattern. So just so that I can kind of show you what I was doing to deal with, instead of trying to rewrite everything in the pattern. I basically just had a cheat sheet for my edge stitches, but I will say up front that once you get that rhythm down, once you figure out, okay, I've got my three I cord, my 3 garter, and then my, on the front, slip purl, and on the back, knit purl. Okay, so slip purl in that order, on the back, knit purl in that order. Or, well, so it's let me say that again. So on the front, when you start, you have slip purl, and on the end you have purl slip. On the back, you have purl knit, and then at the end you have knit purl. Hope that makes sense. It helps if you can see the stitches as you're working them. But anyway, the 3 most important, or the most important to me, was knowing that I had to work the 3-stitch I-cord, the 3-stitch garter stitch, and then essentially I just had to memorize these 2 stitches that are next to the stitch marker to work them correctly each time. So when I looked at my pattern, instead of, so I'm going to pull this up here, I did kind of reformat it. Let me know if you want I just basically put one pattern on each page. If you want, I'm happy to share the file with you. It's the same file, it's just, I like this better than the 2-column format. It works easier for me. So basically, I just highlighted what I'm doing between the markers. Okay, so between the markers, I know what I'm doing, and I'm ignoring everything before the marker and after the marker. I'm just working what I have memorized, which is my I-cord, my garter stitch, my 2 stitches, my 2 stitches, my garter stitch, my I-cord. All right, so I will work this one more time. I'm going to talk you through it as it is written. All right, so we still have I-cord. So we start with a knit and a slip and then a knit. And we're actually going to knit a total of 4 because we have that last knit for the I-cord and then 3 garter stitch. 1, 2, 3. So that's a total of 4. And then we end that with a slip with yarn and back and a purl 1. All right, let me get across to my other stitches here. All right. Now, after the marker, at the end of the row on the right side, we start with a purl and then slip with yarn and back. And then we have the 3 knit stitches of the garter and then the first stitch of the I-cord, which makes a total of 4. So 1, 2, 3, and then for our I-cord, this 4th one, knit, and the rest of the I-cord is slip 1 with yarn in front, knit 1. All right, and then on the back, we start with our I-cord, which is slip 1 with yarn in front, knit 1, and then slip 1 with yarn in front again. And then we're going to have our 3 garter stitch here. So we knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we have purl 1. This is the stitch we slipped on the front, purl that, and then knit this stitch, which makes up our line of knit stitches, that column of knit stitches there right up next to the marker. And then you work whatever stitches you're going to work to get over to the other side. All right, and once you slipped your stitch marker and you're at the end of the wrong side, you begin with a knit and a purl. So we're purling that slip stitch. So we're knitting the first stitch because it makes that knit column, and then we're purling that second stitch, which is the slip stitch from the front. And then we have our 3 garter stitches here that are knit. So knit 3, 2, 3, and then we have our I-cord. Slip 1 with yarn in front, knit 1, slip 1 with yarn in front. All right, so I hope that's helpful for you. If nothing else, you can, second time I worked it through on both sides are linked in the video description. You can just jump to the timestamp for the second time I work basically all 4 borders. So there's the beginning of the right side, end of the right side, beginning of the wrong side, end of the wrong side, the second time I work everything. So if you want to go through that and just jump for those links, you can follow along with those as you work. And I know my brain sometimes works differently, and sometimes that's helpful for people and sometimes it's not. So if that helps you, then great. And if not, you're welcome to leave it and do something else. I just wanted to share how my brain was able to memorize the pattern is just by seeing the 3 stitches of I-cord, the 3 garter stitches, the slip stitch, and then the purl stitch that's up next to the border that's on the front. So when you're on the right side, it's a purl stitch. And then that makes that knit column on the back. So that stitch right up next to the border is always knit. The slip stitch is always purled. And then you still have the 3 garter stitches and then the 3 I-cord stitches. And when you're working the I-cord, you're always doing knit, slip, knit on the front and slip, knit, slip on the back, whether you're doing it at the beginning of the row or the end of the row. So I hope that helps, and let me know if there's anything else I can show you. And let me know if you want my file with the patterns on each page. Thanks.